So yeah, we'll move into stock up, stock down. Ohio State really, you know, they took it to Wisconsin and they kind of left no doubt. This was a game where people talked about it's either going to be a grinded out game or Ohio State's going to really run away with it. And
Seemed like they did just that.
they did just that. First quarter, 21-0, and the game was over. Right? If Wisconsin keeps that game close, you could and hold on to the fourth quarter. You have a game. They want to play defense. They want to run the ball. They want to chew up the clock. They want to keep C.J. Stroud and the Ohio State offense on the sideline.
Yeah, off the field.
But once Ohio State turns it to a track meet and they start putting up tons of points,
then it's hard to keep up.
Yeah, it's hard to keep up.
That's something that we're able to take away from the Ohio State offense is they're starting to get explosive. They're starting to show a little bit of promise, and early on against obviously that Notre Dame game, it was kind of like, okay, are there questions around it? Is Notre Dame's defense really that good? And as the season went on, we got to really see, like, obviously Notre Dame really isn't that great. They have a lot of questions. They have a lot of things. So it was kind of just a little bit of offensive continuity for the Buckeyes to really get going. But it seems like they're starting to get going. They're starting to get that flow now. But for some reason, I mean, I feel like Ohio State is never really the team to pick up where they left off at. They kind of like take some time to pick up their offense, to get things going with their defense, whatever the case actually is. But obviously they're showing a lot of promise this year with the blowouts that they've had, and they just look like a well-oiled machine on offense. I think C.J. Stroud is obviously somebody you could talk about in the Heisman race right now. So Ohio State is just showing a lot of promise. So.
Yeah, they're definitely hitting on all cylinders, and that's even without JSN. He just hasn't been able to get right this year.
Yeah,
seems like they kind of made some mistakes by trying to get him in there, maybe a little bit too early, and seems like maybe now they'll try and let him rest a bit because now, unlike the first game where there was a lot of questions, this is supposed to be the best wide receiver group in the country, and kind of wasn't showing. Now they're kind of hitting full stride, and they look great. That. And, their defense, too, being able to hold up and stop guys. We just needed to see an improvement over last year, and they've seemed to be doing that. So they're definitely trending in the right direction. As we said, Kansas, another team, 4-0. Their total over-under win total for odds was, over under 4 wins, and they've hit that in the first 4 wins. And they're a team, Jalen Daniels is really lighting it up with his arm and with his legs. They're putting up points. They're not squeaking out wins, right? It's not a team that, they're just finding a way to grind it out. And, that takes skill, but sometimes there's some luck involved with those kind of wins. They're just straight up beating opponents, and it's tough because Kansas is a program that's obviously known more for their basketball, but this year, they're able to make some things happen, and who knows? They're a team that if they keep it up, maybe they will be contending for a Big 12 title, and
right. And I think the Big 12 is kind of open now.
Yeah, so wide open.
It's like it gives them an opportunity to show them like, okay, here we've made this progression. Now we can at least compete with these other teams in the Big 12. Let alone compete with them, we can compete for a championship in the Big 12. So I think it works out for them in the long run, because it's like, okay, say this is more of a progression year, then next year they can bring in a little bit more recruits, bring in better recruits, bring in better quality from maybe in the transfer portal, try to get some things going and try to build off of that momentum. And when you're able to do that, your program's able to make a lot more moves in bowl games and obviously championships. And again, the Big 12 is kind of open, so it's like there's more than enough room in the Big 12. Even if it's not completely open, there's more than enough room to have another powerhouse in that kind of not to say Kansas is a powerhouse, but they can develop to be that.
Yeah, and first thing for them would be retaining their coach. Their coach Leipold is now rumored in possible candidates to take over that Nebraska job. Nebraska's certainly going to, try to get a big replacement in there to bring their program back to prominence. And, you show you could take a team like Kansas and make a turnaround like that. That should certainly put you on people's radars. Another team in the same state, Kansas State, with the big win over Oklahoma. And, like we kind of mentioned it a little earlier, they have a winning record against Oklahoma, right? So obviously they're a program that they have Oklahoma's number. They're able to kind of figure them out and find ways to put their best foot forward against a team like Oklahoma that's always in the running to win the Big 12, no matter how open it is. But yeah, Kansas State, they go in and they get the job done. But we'll move on to some teams trending the opposite direction, stock trending down at this point, and that's one of them is Michigan State, right? They come out, they travel to Washington the week prior, and they get stomped out.
Right. Yeah, that was kind of a surprising game.
Yeah, that was a surprise, and they were like a 2.5, 3-point underdog. A lot of people taking them as a lock, and yeah, they just came out flat. Washington, put them kind of to bed early. They tried to make a run late, but it was way too late for them to actually win the game. And then they have a game against Minnesota this past weekend, and they just don't get the job done. They come out flat again. Minnesota takes it to them, and it just doesn't look like it's gonna be their year. I mean, they were able to have a great season last year, and you would think Mel Tucker would have them ready to go, and maybe some slippage was expected after having a Heisman contender and Kenneth Walker
go
and just doing so well in that transfer portal last year. But this year they're just not a team that can compete the same level. But the another team we have trending downwards is Miami, right? They come out and like we said earlier too, they ruining a bunch of people's parlays, minus 2,500 favorite, kind of a throw-in game to
just add on to your leg.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more odds, a little bit higher odds to your parlay,
and then next thing you know, that's the main reason why your parlay is.
Yeah, and then yeah, exactly, and they get smoked by a team like Middle Tennessee, and just disappointing for Miami. I mean, they came into Texas A&M the week before. Some people thought they were going to win that game. They lost in a close game. Before that, they weren't playing great competition, but they were, putting up 70 points against some of their opponents. And,
right.
You knew that they didn't really have the threats, the wide receiver threats on the outside. But, yeah, I mean, to lose to Middle Tennessee the way they did, I mean, it's very similar. It's somewhat similar to the Marshall win against Notre Dame.
Right.
In that it wasn't close. It's not like you could say Middle Tennessee won with some fluke. I mean, points-wise, you could look at the box score and you could tell that. But, Miami just really couldn't get it going. And pretty disappointing for a team that, Mario Cristobal takes over. And you would expect them to get some things right. I mean, it's not the end of the world, right? It's one loss, but, man, it's a disappointing loss.
Yeah, I mean, it's one loss, but it's also, you expect, like you said, you expect Mario Cristobal to get these guys going, to start winning games and try to bring Miami back to what they were. Obviously, you're not going to get them back to the U, but you want to get them to at least make some type of progression. And, we just talked about Kansas. Kansas is on the rise. If Kansas can do it, then I'm certainly, I think Miami should be able to do it. But again, it's kind of disappointing, but maybe they'll get things back on track. Maybe they'll be able to turn it around. Mario Cristobal, maybe he'll get his players to start playing and kind of shape up these losses. You shouldn't be getting losses to these teams like Middle Tennessee. I mean, that's not something that you should really.
Yeah,
that shouldn't really be even happening
for a team that people are picking to win the, their division, and possibly go to their conference championship game, and a lot of people's picks to do that preseason wise. This is the type of game that you have to win when you're going for those kind of things, when you have those kind of goals. So, yeah, Mario Cristobal will certainly have to figure things out and get them right. But